Yep, another game lost because one of those champions wasn't banned. Oh, and by the way, welcome back to another ProGuides Wild Rift video that takes care exactly of that problem. So let's get straight to it. The very first champion on our list is Katarina. She's a solo queue demon and nobody, and by nobody I mean really nobody, wants to play against her. Her entire kit is just very toxic for a solo queue environment. Chaos is what she loves and she'll transition into anything you don't want her to be, aka the mid lane differential. However, we've been quite lucky lately. She's not been picked so many times, but when she's picked, oh my, it's just not a good time for anyone involved. So whenever you queue up for the mid lane and don't want to play against her, just ban her. Just get out so you don't have to ever see her again. Because she's one of those champions that even if you don't do anything wrong, she might even just leave lane and dip a wave and just walk anywhere else, and because your teammates didn't pay attention, well, she just got a double kill. And with that double kill, your lane is now officially over, because once she jumps onto a dagger after level 5, you're probably going to get a one shot, unless you have exhaust and some quick reflexes. But what exactly makes this champion so strong that it's worth banning? Well, number one, as I've already told you, the solo queue environment is absolutely chaotic. Which means she can walk off to any place she wants and get something out of it, and that's something we hate the most. Not only that, she can also just wait patiently in a fight for her opportunity once all CC spells are down and then clean up the fight in an instant. And honestly, she's way easier to play than most people think she is. Even if you just mostly auto-cast your third ability, you will always jump to your dagger super fast. And with that speed, nobody can really respond fast enough unless they already know what's going to happen next. But what do we do if we don't get a ban and this champion is open and picked against us? Unironically, Singed is one of the best picks into Katarina in the middle lane. It sounds super troll, but Katarina just cannot play. The grounding effect from the Singed blocks her from doing anything once she wants to jump to a dagger. Not only that, she cannot contest a wave against Singed, which is kind of ironic because Singed gets beaten up by most champions in the game whatever he does. He only gets to play once he reaches level 5, and even then, if he doesn't have the stats to play around it, he will just get beaten up anyway. Other than thinking about a specific champion on how to play against her, it's mostly about her daggers. The range is super big and way bigger than it actually looks. It doesn't match the visuals at all when she jumps onto a dagger, so you have to keep that in mind when you want to space properly. Also, don't try to flash away once she input her first ability's animation. You will die anyway after that point, because the dagger is going to follow you, it's going to drop behind you, and she's going to be able to jump on top of your head. But probably the best way to play against her is to pick up exhaust and to avoid the daggers as much as possible. If you get that done, your chances of winning are rather high. And if you are like a carry mid laner, for example a Corki, you can also debate going Hex Drinker, but you never complete the actual maul. You just want the Hex Drinker to survive. Due to the combination of those items and runes and summoner spells, you'll be more than fine dealing with her. Unless she gets too fed from your dragon lane. And with that, we instantly go to the question of the day. What's your opinion on the current amount of bans? We know that Riot wants to increase them to 5 per team eventually, but we don't know when. So, how are you feeling about that? Let us know in the comments below. And now let's move on to our next pick, Akali. She has been nerfed quite a few times, but it's still not it. She's still an obnoxious pick to play against, but now it takes longer for her to scale up. Previously, her early game was monstrous. Level 1, she just beats you up with 3 of her first abilities and auto attacks, and then you just die. That was really fun because nobody could beat her. Now it's a bit different. She can't do this anymore. She basically has to wait till level 7 to try and do that again. However, even on level 5 when she gains access to ultimate, the tables turn. Her damage becomes quite insane if I might say so. Also, build-wise, a few changes have happened, and now we don't see it like it used to be. In a solo queue environment, when you're supposed to carry, just go Conqueror, and for the item build, rush a Prophet's Pendant for the magic pen, and then build into a Lichbane. In a more serious environment, where you can't pull off all these auto attacks, you'd rather go for Rabadon's Death Cap here. But since we're talking about solo queue and we're talking about snowballing, Lichbane would make sense. Because you can always make the argument, well, the matchmaking is quite awful, so I'm playing against people way lower elo than me, so I can farm them, which means more gold and more snowballing. So please, random from Gamelord, don't hate me for this, but in solo queue it might be a bit different, simply due to the difference in skill level. but I wouldn't advise doing so in a competitive environment. But what exactly makes this champion so strong? This champion is the bane of all carries in the later stages of the game. If this champion gets close to you, it's very likely for you to die shortly after. Even her map presence is a threat already. If she puts down her shroud in front of you, you have to respect it. If you don't, any carry will die. Trust me, it is going to happen. Because even on 2 items, even her first ability in combination with her second R in an auto attack will kill a carry. It sounds very unbalanced and very unfun because of her high base damage. But how do we actually play against that champion? Number 1, get the Ghosty enchant. You don't want to let that shroud be a threat to you. Number 2, think about getting a stasis enchant on another character. For example, let the support pick up the Ghosty enchant and the AD carry the stasis enchant. With this you get enough time to survive and your teammates will have plenty of opportunity to get the Akali killed. Akali players are also mostly very predictable. Since they're so obsessed with killing carries, they'll always try to go for them. Use this information to wait in the wings around a corner or anywhere close to a brush where they don't see you, and then you'll get a free catch on them. And now let's move on to the Baron lane, to one of the champions that has been permanently picked in the SEA region. Darius. Darius is infamous for his laning potency. It's very hard to trade with him because the longer the trade goes on, the more likely you are to lose. All thanks due to his passive that stacks up a bleed, and once he's fully stacked he gains a fat amount of AD. And the moment a Darius reaches full stacks, all of his attacks and abilities inflict full stacks on that passive again on anybody he touches. So the worst thing you can imagine is having a tank giving a Darius 5 stacks who then keeps on killing your entire team in an instant because all he has to do is use his first ability, flash, and then dunk people one after another. But for Darius as a champion, you have to always be honest about it. He as a champion isn't obnoxiously strong. It's the conditions he's picked into that make him so strong. The more melees or tanks the enemy team has, the stronger he becomes, because he'll actually get plenty of opportunity to stack himself up. If he's playing against a lot of ranged champions, it looks a bit different of course. On the PC version of this game, he had one specific nickname. He was called a Noob Stomper. Why? Well, not everybody is very familiar with trading patterns. They don't know what the desired identity of a champion actually is and what he has to do to accomplish his goals. So therefore, they just mindlessly hit the enemy because, well, it looks good or it feels good. So on the flip side, the other player might also not be familiar with those trading patterns. However, if you play Darius and let's say you smurf, you can abuse that so much. One specific trick would be camping the enemy in a brush level 1. You can start with your second ability and just hope somebody walks by. Ideally, you don't even skill anything up until you see somebody walk by. Then you use your auto attack into your second ability's auto attack cancel and make sure the enemy is already pressured. If he then chooses to trade back, well, there's no way you can actually win, because all you have to do is race to your 5 stacks and then the fight is won anyway. If that isn't an option, you can simply play lane normally. Level 1 you can go for your first ability and farm from range if it's too dangerous to get close to the enemy simply for the champion choice. On level 2 you can think about taking your apprehend ability and pull the enemy in to make sure he doesn't get free CS. Level 3 the enemy has to be very much careful, because overstepping just once means immediate death or the loss of a summoner spell, which usually leads to death anyway. So how do we play against the Darius? Number 1, don't give him full stacks for free. Never do that. Number 2, be very careful of his apprehend range. Never get too close to him. Number 3, frequently check his inventories to see what enchantment he goes. Some go Protobelt, some go Righteous Glory, and into full melee comps they even go Gargoyle Stoneplate. So be very mindful of that so you're not caught off guard. And after having spoken about the Darius, let's talk about the most obnoxious champion in the Dragon lane. Varus. Varus is so unbelievably annoying you have no idea. It's one of the few champions that can defend the Dragon lane on his own, which means the support can run around the map and terrorize it at the same time. But what exactly makes this champion so strong? There's basically 2 builds available. You can go for the lethality build or the AP build. The lethality build is exquisite against any kind of squishy team compositions. You'll literally poke them down. The other build is the AP build. The AP build is so much stronger into tanky compositions. because of the AP bonus you get from your second ability and how your ultimate and passive scale, the passive of the second ability, you'll actually find yourself one-shotting tanks. It sounds very confusing, but since your second ability's passive deals a percentage of maximum HP, you will literally blow them up. So even though a lot of people say that AP Varus is troll, it is not. It is just situational. So if you want to save yourself some mental, then make sure this champion stays banned. But what do we do if the champion isn't banned? Well, don't try to match and do what he does already. Look for other opportunities. Look for champions that engage into him, because that is what he dislikes the most. Especially the AD Varus variant, which most of the people are playing, the lethality variant. You can just pick champions that are A, naturally tanky, and B, have any form of engage, and then he'll just have not a good time. Because a lethality Varus deals negative damage to any tank. Just imagine a J4 with a bruiser build. The lethality Varus is unable to do anything to him unless the Varus is obnoxiously fed. And now let's move on to the very last pick of this list. It's Braum, my personal hate ban. I hate this champion for one specific reason. Whenever I play jungle, this champion is the most annoying champion to deal with. Usually Janna players aren't good enough to be annoying as hell, but Braum players, all they have to do is auto-attack you once. And then your fight basically has ended, because all the enemy team has to do is to dogpile onto you and auto-attack you, and then you're stunned and then you die. That is very unfun and it's very hard to play against. On top of that, he's also as sturdy as a Malphite and has the ability to block projectiles for a brief moment of time, which basically means he can make an enemy AD carry, or depending what other champion he's facing that uses projectiles as his primary source of damage, absolutely useless. And turning a hyper carry role useless for an extended period of time in the late game usually wins you the game. Unless of course the entire team composition doesn't match what he wants to do. So what are the main things to look out against the Braum? Basically you have to look how he uses his shield. Look how he plays and assess the situation properly. If you see that he's frequently wasting his shield, you can capitalize on that and go for specific engages. I see a lot of Braum players using their shield if they are playing against a melee character. The melee character just went in and then they put up their shield, as if there was anything coming from the melee character. However, this is one of the biggest mistakes most Braum players do. They don't think about the value of their cooldowns, and this is exactly what you have to capitalize on. Another thing, especially if you are in a carry position that goes into the enemy team, think about buying a stasis enchant. The stasis enchant will help you save your own life. Other than that, maybe even a quicksilver enchant. And in lane, you want to pick something that bullies the Braum. You want to punish him for being a melee champion. So for example, enchanters do a really good job into him. Level 1 to level 2, unless you make a grave mistake, you'll just beat him up. The only thing he can do to you is jump onto a minion, flash into your face and CC chain you. But that's pretty much it. So if you always play around those factors, there's no way you can actually die. And that's it for today's video. Thank you for watching and don't forget to hit the like and sub button to never miss anything ProGuides in the future.